What do your friends call you?
Gvru.
Your mother?
Gvru.
Where does Gvru come from?
It's like the weirdest thing. So in school, right, in fashion school, actually the name Gvru came up. It was actually supposed to, they were making fun of me, you know, and I've always been of the understanding that that's how you disarm people of their power. So if they call you something, just own it, and then it just blows over. And then then I started like calling myself Gvru, and then it was over. That's how I found my thing. But I think it was influenced mostly by how I dressed in fashion school. You know, I had a very, I don't know what to call it, but it was busy. It was hectic, and every time I would walk past, like down the corridor, they'd be just like, "Yeah, here's the Gvru," you know, and that was it. And then when I started calling myself that, it just stopped. But unfortunately, fortunately now the name stuck, you know. And when I think only years later I found what the meaning of Gvru was, and I was just like, well, thank you, that is beautiful, thanks, I'll take it. Yeah.
And your dressing, so I assume it was like a lot of layers, draped, flowy.
Listen, layers on layers, you know, like on an easy day I'd be in like drop crotch, pleated pants, and just like a massive kimono, you know. I had dreadlocks back then, and sometimes they'd be like tied up into either like a man bun or in like a turban, and that was my aesthetic for a very long time, you know, throughout fashion school. That's what I dressed in. Yeah. And
you know, there's this conversation that people use dress as a form of armor.
Yeah.
Do you think that was an armor or protection?
Absolutely. I, like, growing up, like, I wasn't the most confident of people. So when I found fashion and started playing around with that, I then started using that as armor. It certainly was that. You would never catch me dead in like just like jeans and like a t-shirt. Never. It always had to look better than, you know, what everyone else was doing, you know. And for me it was just like a thing of, they can say everything else, you know, but at the end of whatever they're saying, they'll be like, but that bitch will dress you under the carpet, you know. And that was my armor for a long time, and I think I still do that to this day. I think I still do that.
And for somebody who acknowledges and realizes that we're not the most confident, or that confidence came at a later stage,
yeah,
and then dressing in a way that it brings attention to you,
yeah,
were you not scared of that?
No, because I grew up in a house where, like, fashion was normal, you know. You just had to look a certain way, you know. So like I've never been afraid to dress extravagantly or whatever. I grew up in a household that's always said that actually that's what it should be. That's what it should be.
And at what age were you aware of fashion, or the industry fashion, or the clothing industry?
At home, so my grandmother was a teacher, right? That was like her 9-to-5 sort of thing. But she had like this, I don't know what to call it, like a side gig nyana. And she was like the seamstress allocation. So if you buy something it doesn't fit, you take it to my grandmother. And from a young age, I knew how to do those little things. Like I knew how to properly do a hemline, you know. I knew how to do like box pleats, you know, these skirts or in these pleated skirts. I knew how to make those skirts at like the age of like 10, 9. I knew how to pleat fabric properly, but I didn't know that on its own is an industry, and therefore something that you can make a career out of. And I think it only hit me after So after high school, I enrolled for fine arts. And during that, my first year in fine arts, there was one of my lecturers who was looking at one of my works and said to me that I think you're more of a designer than a thingy, than a visual artist. And I was like, what do you mean? It's just like, no, just looking at your work, you know, like your work is very 3D, you know, it's very building things, you know. But he was just like, I obviously can't direct you into that path. You need to find it for yourself. You know, you need to find whether it's like interior designing or whatever. And I think that's when it hit me. I was just like, I've always loved fashion, and I'm somewhat good at it. I have an understanding of what happens in there, you know. And I did a little bit of research and whatever, and I think that's when I knew that it's like an entire industry, and it's a career.
And then growing up, it's not something that you said, oh, I want to be a fashion designer.
Oh no.
Or I want to play into that space. It was normalcy for you to be around that.
Absolutely. I've always gravitated towards anything artistic and creative, even as a kid. I like the fondest memories I have of myself as a kid. I was either drawing something or putting things together. Like I was always a very creative person, you know. And yeah, I've always known, like even in high school when people were, you know, dreaming of being doctors or whatever else people are into, I knew that no. But for then the first thing for me, my first instinct was that, you know, I can be like a visual artist, you know, because I was already doing that. I was doing that every day. I was drawing, I was painting, I was doing all of these things. So that's the skill I wanted to harness and grow. So I only did like 1 year of fine arts, and then I completed that year because you can't drop out. I don't come from those homes. You can't drop out. At least finish the year. And then I enrolled for a fashion design course, and at the time my family couldn't afford it because it's bloody expensive. And then we found an institution just outside Fordsburg and enrolled in there. I think that's what they could afford at the time, and Bob's your uncle. That's what I did.
And then from there on, did you go on immediately to start your line, or you worked somewhere?
You mean after my studies?
Yeah, after your studies.
I instantly attempted starting, you know, a line, but obviously that didn't work out at the time, you know, because I think even after school, after fashion school, now the school has given you this skill, you know, and helped you sharpen your skill in all of this, but you still need to find what your medium is, like what it is that you do, you know. And I think for the first few years, I think I was doing what everyone else was doing, you know. So if there was like a certain trend and whatever, I had this idea that's what I should be doing, because that's what designers do, you know. We play into these trends, and it was only years after when I was just like, no.
So you graduated, then you started State of Gvru.
Yes.
Where's State of Gvru now?
I'm still working at it. I'm still working at it.
Has the name changed?
No, it's been the same. I think in the first. The initial name for it was like House of Gvru, you know. And I remember having a conversation with my grandmother then, who was just like, no, you know, she came up with some theories. She was just like, you know, think bigger, you know, like instead of it being like just a house, you know, why can't it be like an entire country, like a state, like the entire universe, just like think bigger, you know, and that's when State of Gvru came from, you know. And I think over the years I sort of developed what that meant, you know, because I found that more than anything, what I'm trying to build with the brand is just a celebration of our state of being, you know. And I think that's where I'm at as a designer right now, you know, with my experiences in retail. I obviously got to learn so many other things that go into producing a garment and, you know, potentially selling it to the open market, you know, be it your choice of fabrics, be it I don't know, the pricing on the tag or whatever other aspects go into it. And I think I've found a much more clearer voice and understanding of what I'm trying to do with it. Yeah. And I don't think I could have done that without my experience in the retail business.
And there's this perception that retail is like one of those jobs, you know, that you do, especially for somebody who's looking from the outside who has never done it before. It can either be A, for survival, for like a day-to-day, and B, for somebody who's actually studied fashion and use it as like another platform, an education form, whilst making money. When you started in retail, did you know that there was a lot of information, there were lots of lessons that you wouldn't have learned any other way if you had not done it?
No, I had absolutely no idea. I went into retail because I knew that there is no way that I'm going to sit at a desk. I knew that the only way I could exist in a working environment is in an environment of like clothing, you know. And I found that retail is a real thing, you know. It's a real thing, because even look at it this way. So you're a designer, you're making these clothes. Where are these clothes supposed to go? Do you know what I mean? Someone needs to buy these clothes. So that's essentially what retail is, you know. It's from whoever's producing the product to the consumer. That's essentially what retail is, you know. And I couldn't have known that had I not worked in that business. I couldn't have known how important the retail business is to what young creatives, not only in fashion, even in like visual arts or whatever, because you have to sell these products to someone, you know. I wouldn't have known that, and I wouldn't know how to do it if I hadn't worked in that space.
Most people struggle with pricing.
Yeah.
How did you learn how to price a garment?
Retail. Because through retail, I also learned that more than anything, like outside of the things that we create, you know, no matter how gorgeous they are, in fashion, people want to buy clothes. You know, and it's not everyone that's interested in buying this piece for like 10,000 rands and just wear it once and just never wear it again. People want clothes that they can exist in, you know, because there is some truth in the statement that clothes are an extension of who we are, you know. And retail taught me that, you know, and also shaped my outlook on how I produce what I produce, you know, because I think before that all I was doing was just like creating these pieces, you know, that I can look back at now and be like, no one would wear that, you know. It's gorgeous, you know, but retail also taught me gave me the understanding of, okay, so if I'm going to create like a pair of dungarees, you know, what do the dungarees look like? Where's this person going? You know, so you sort of, while you're creating, you need to place people inside these garments, you know, because that's the ultimate goal, is that people should buy clothing.
Your career trajectory eventually led you to, it's fluid, it's flowing.
Yeah.
And you have now transitioned into or diversified into fashion styling.
Yes.
How did that come about?
I'm always looking for new ways to utilize my gift, right? And my gift or my talent, or however you choose to refer to it. And I remember there was a year that I had then left retail after like 8 years of retail, and I left because it wasn't fun anymore, you know. And in the bracket that I was working in within the retail industry, I personally felt that I had hit my ceiling. And when I feel like that, I move on to something else, you know. And then I went back to fashion, you know, and I had to refocus now all of my energy and my attention that I had given so much of to the retail industry back into my designing. And I remember sitting and I was watching some Vogue documentary, right? And they were showcasing how like a TV commercial is made, and I was just like, this is absolutely interesting, you know, I'd like to do that. So I called around, and I called people that I knew were doing something along those lines, and I was just like, how do we, you know, like what goes on in here, how do we do this and whatever, you know, because firstly I had to somehow position myself in that television or film industry, you know, to fully understand what it is that my skills and my abilities as a fashion designer could do. And I spoke to an agency that said, okay, we'd love to see what you can do, because I sent them my design portfolio, and just like, oh, these pieces are nice, you know, would like to see how you work with everyday clothing, you know, would like to see how you work with a pair of jeans and a white t-shirt and whatever, you know, to relay a certain story to the viewer of whatever commercial we're doing. And I got put on a job, I think it was for some insurance thing. And yeah, I think the first day that I got on set, and I was just like, okay, this is interesting, and I could enjoy, I could do this for a little bit, you know, and that's what I'm also juggling right now. And it's quite fun. I'm loving every minute of it. And there's also things that I take out of styling that I now am able to incorporate into my design, you know. So there's always an opportunity for me to learn, you know, little things like how people feel about a certain fabric or how they feel inside it, you know, because that's very personal, you know. If I'm on set for, I don't know, like 13-14 hours or whatever, and I've put someone in a certain shirt in a certain material, then I'm able to understand how, you know, after a while, how they feel in this fabric and whatever, and that also informs my design choices. From
fine art student to fashion student to designing, studying your line, to retail, to now fashion stylist. Do you think that there's a way that you could have arranged a sequence so that you learn faster as opposed to learning the other things? Like, oh, actually this is how styling ties into retail, when I have to do visual merchandising, when I have to create a garment, then I have to sell it to somebody. Or you're just enjoying it, the process, the way it unfolding organically?
I think I wouldn't change whatever pattern it happened in, you know, because I think I think I now understand that it happened just the way that it should have, you know. Like retail, which was then, because that happened over a longer period of time, not only did that inform my decisions in terms of my design aesthetic and therefore what the consumer wants in the end, I also use a lot of what I learned back there in styling, you know. For instance, like I know now that a person of a certain body size, this is where I go for jeans that they can wear for 2 days, you know, and not feel a little uncomfortable, you know what I mean? So I think I'm glad that the retail thing happened first, because that has then opened my eyes to so many other things that I do and still want to do. That has been like an extremely beautiful foundation.
And would you ever revisit your fine artistry or continue that journey?
Honestly, no. But I also know why that had to happen. You know, because that also then helped me up that helped me along my fashion illustration, you know. So I don't doubt the process. I don't think I'll ever be a visual artist, you know. But I also understand why it was necessary for me to have done it. So I don't think it was by chance that I was there for the year that I was doing it, because it's also played a role in the type of things that I do. You know, even like small things like manipulating your own fabric, you know, like tie-dyes and like painting fabrics and that sort of thing. You know, I still incorporate the little bit of knowledge that I acquired in that year into some of the things that I do right now.
What do you wish for State of Gvru?
I wish for State of Gvru to just be a sustainable and lucrative brand that people recognize, you know, and I wish for it to be something that can sustain itself, you know, and cement itself in the bigger fashion industry.
And what do you think it's going to take for that to happen?
I think it's always just about understanding what your brand is and what the DNA of your brand is. I think that's super important. And I've learned in the past couple of years that you can't do everything, also because maybe you shouldn't, you know. Do what you do and let others do the rest, you know. I want to create clothes that people feel amazing in. I want to create clothing that people want. Do you know what I mean? And also strike a balance between that and the sort of clothes that people don't feel like they can't have, because I think that's what that's a very common mistake within our industry, especially designers, you know, because people feel like they can't get it because it looks a certain way, or they just don't relate to it, you know. And I think clothing, the primary function of clothing is functionality, and yeah, it's just functionality and just like availability. You know, people mustn't be able to walk into a store and be like, I want those pants, you know, because those pants are made for those people, you know. And I think that's what I'd like State of Gvru to become.
The process of garment making, it's it's a slow thing. People think that it's just like quick, then close out. No.
No.
What are some of the pain points of trying to work at a slower pace, given that everything today operates so quickly?
Once you understand what you're about as a creative, as a designer, those problems are somehow eliminated, you know, because I do think that even in a world or in an industry that is so fast paced, you know, the people that the product is intended for will always stand behind it, you know. It's a very lengthy process. It's a very lengthy process to produce quality products, you know. It's not, we don't make it, we don't cut a dress today and then tomorrow it's done and then it's out the door, you know. And more than anything, it's also such a personal process, you know. And I think that's also the reason why it's such a lengthy process, you know, because before there is me and my ideas as a designer, there's the person that has to wear the garment, you know. And oftentimes striking that balance is extremely daunting, because people are different, you know. People are different. People are not gonna like what I like, you know. So you need to find a center for you and your market, you know.
This is big talk about consciousness, sustainability, circularity. How do you define sustainability as somebody in fashion for yourself?
Are we talking sustainability in fashion and the products that we create? Look, I think that we can do a bit, definitely. So I think that's important, you know. I know that a lot of retailers are also getting into that whole consciousness and, you know, creating sustainable fashion. I think it is important, you know, especially because of how quickly things are moving and whatever. Things are not as how do I say it? Things are not as I'm trying to find this word. Okay, but anyway, it's not coming. But I think it really is important. I think because fashion is such a huge industry, we can definitely also drive that change. You know, there are, you know, there's a million options out there for us as designers, but also then it becomes so tricky, because then how do we? I think another question is, like, how do we create all like this sustainable and conscious sort of fashion at the pace that the world is moving in? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a little, I don't know, but I think it's a balance we have to strike or strive towards. Yeah.
Do you think we can be able to produce sustainable fast fashion?
I think if we want to, we can. I think if we want to, we just can. We can, you know. Maybe the reason why we haven't is because it's not an easy process, and we're always trying to find the quickest way out, you know. But I think if it was a cause that is important to everyone, I think we'd definitely find a way. I think we definitely would.
What is your understanding, or how do you define African luxury?
Sure, African luxury. I think African luxury, how would I define it? Let me have a second on this one, because this has to come out right. I think Africans were very fortunate to be just that, to be Africans. We have such a rich and diverse culture, and defining that for me would be getting back to defining African luxury, because I think we're just naturally a very luxurious and just like beautiful continent. But I think we need to dig deeper into who and what Africa is and was before all of this that's going on happened. You know, I don't know if that makes sense, but I think we need to go back to what it means to us to be, what the idea of being African means to us. And I think all of our ideas of African luxury, that's where everything is at, you know.
Do you then think that us labeling it African luxury is necessary, or our luxury as Africans is just purely that luxury?
It's luxury. It's luxury. I think we are just like luxurious people, you know. Listen, fur, leather, you know, like those textures that people look at and feel like, oh my God, this is luxurious. That's our thing, you know. I think the entire African library is very luxurious. You know, it's in our architecture, it's in our literature, it's in our entire history, you know. So I think, yeah.
Do your parents, or your mom, or understand what is it that you do?
My mom has no idea what I do. She has no idea what I do, you know.
What does she think you do?
I think my mom still thinks I work in a store, in a clothing store somewhere. Yeah, I think I've tried having that conversation with her, you know, when I left one space into the other, and she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it, you know. And because of I'm a designer, if maybe we're watching television and there's like a commercial that I styled that's on TV, her first question would be like, did you make those clothes? And I'm just like, no, you know. No, she has no idea. She has no idea. She's just happy I work. Yeah, because it's parents. You must work, you know. But she has no idea. Yeah.
What do you know now that you didn't know then that you wish somebody told you? That it's possible, you know. And I know that might sound a little shallow and even maybe a little cliche. That it's possible that you can have it, all of it, whatever it is, you can have it. You know, you can dress your biggest icon. You can, you know, you can have a brand that runs for all of eternity, and it's just amazing, and people love it, and it's just, I think I know now because I've been exposed to people that have done it. I know now that you definitely can do it. Whatever it is, like there's nothing too big or too crazy. What has been the lesson that took you the hardest to learn?
To do what I do in the best way that I can do it, you know. And I say this because growing up as like being a young person in the fashion industry, it's very easy to get distracted and fall into what other people are doing, you know. And it took me almost forever to understand that no, this is not what you do, this is what Jerry does, this is what you do, you know. And yeah, that took me forever. And I think had I known that earlier, I'd be a couple of steps ahead, you know. But even still, having said that, no regrets. I still say it unfolded just the way it should have. Yeah.
How do you define success for yourself?
just feeling, just like a point of feeling good about yourself and everything that you do. You know, I don't think it's up to anyone to say, oh, but yeah, no, he's successful, because also success is relative. You know, someone that lives in, I don't know, Kukamurtsville somewhere, if you've bought a bike, that's probably something. Do you know what I mean? So it has to be for you, you know. And I think because our interests and our wants for ourselves are different, you know. So therefore, success is different. I think success is such a personal thing. But the ability to wake up every single day and do exactly what it is that you set out to do and be very happy doing it, I think that's my idea of success.
Cultural radar, what do you think is moving the needle right now and hitting the cultural nerve?
I think the biggest thing is authenticity. You know, I think it's just simple as that, just like authenticity, like proper undiluted authenticity. Yeah.
And then how does that come up for you?
I think it's just like the basic understanding of an understanding, like a very deep and rooted understanding of who and what we are. You know, I think that just like breeds authenticity. Yeah.
Perfect. Done.
Okay.